What is up, my powerful person? Welcome to the BPowerful Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Powell, and I've got one of my good friends here. This man is a beautiful person. He's got a big heart. He has been through a lot. We're going to talk all about kind of his life. He is a veteran. He's a felon. He owns 2 businesses. He's a great friend and a very compassionate person to everyone around him. I've only known him for a couple months, and we've been really close, really gotten to know each other. And yeah, I love this dude. Andrew Roberts, welcome to the Be Powerful Podcast.
Thank you, brother. Bringing me to tears a little bit over here.
Almost forgot your last name.
Oh, man. Well, thank you. I'm extremely happy and grateful to finally be doing this with you. You know, we've been talking about it since you very first started.
Yeah.
And, life seems to make things happen exactly when it's intended, as it's intended. And our time has finally come.
I agree. Yeah, we were on a road trip last week, and we had considered doing the podcast in the U-Haul that we were driving, but I'm actually really glad we didn't try to do that because that audio would have sounded terrible.
Oh my God, the bumps.
Oh yeah, how bumpy and loud trucks are.
Right.
Like you can barely hear music in them because they're just so fucking loud.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Between that and you constantly farting. I mean,
yes.
No,
for real.
All jokes aside,
I've got gas issues.
Yeah.
And I need to figure that out.
Yeah.
You know?
But I mean, you've got, an appointment to go and see a GI doctor. So
that's
step
right.
in the right direction.
Yeah, we're going to get it figured out.
Yeah, we sure are.
Yeah. There's a lot of variables that could be playing into that,
Right. And, I think that's one of the important roles that psychologists or, the variety of doctors are. Like, it's just to help you see things in a light that, you otherwise wouldn't be able to.
Totally. Yeah, from different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it could be diet, it could be past damage to my body, drug use, could be stress, and it could be a lot of things. I'm sure it's a combination of all of them,
Right.
But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that because I've always kind of just had stomach issues, always feeling bloated, always feeling like just shitty, literally,
Yeah.
And that's affected my mental state a lot, and that's affected my day to day,
Right.
So it'd be cool to get that dialed in.
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like, if you get like a paper cut or, a scratch somewhere and it's healing and it's like, you've got that little bit of like constant pain all the time.
Yeah.
You can just feel how, even though it's a minute injury, it still lowers your vibration just a little.
Yeah.
Right. So something like that, where you're saying you've felt poor for so long. I'm really excited to see how that changes your energy and how that positively impacts your life, like resolving that for you.
Right. Yeah. I've already made some progress as far as just trying to eat less, junk food and less processed food, more whole, organic, well-sourced foods, and also taking like a digestive enzyme and stuff. And like, that's helped a little bit, but there's still some lingering issues, And so, yeah, I'm really excited to see, how things are when I get that dialed in as well.
Right.
Right on. Well, gas talk aside, yeah, like, I think a good thing to kind of start with would be you just telling the guest or telling the listener a little bit about kind of who you are and what your life has looked like. Just a little bit of a, play-by-play kind of nothing crazy, but just kind of how you got to where you are right now.
Right. The too long didn't read, right? The TLDR.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So, my childhood, adolescence, all of that is, I think not as important or not as impactful as my adulthood. Although I came from a great family, when you're young, they're able to protect you and kind of shelter you or guide you from making extremely poor decisions. But when you set out on your own, that's all you, right? And so it wasn't until I was 18, I went into the military right out of high school, which was odd considering my parents were both in the medical field and learned scholars, as one would say, right? So I just needed some guidance in my life. And so I joined the Air Force, got stationed out in Colorado. I was lonely, I was depressed, hanging out with college kids. So I got introduced to the rave scene. And at that time, the dark web was just starting to become a thing. And I found out that you could go to the Silk Road and buy something called Bitcoin before everybody knew what it was. It was super cheap. You get it for like $30, $40 a Bitcoin, like crazy. And I was buying MDMA, mushrooms, LSD off the dark web, and I was getting it shipped off base. And I would go and pick it up with my friends, and we'd go to raves and festivals and sell it. And that ultimately led to me getting caught, and I was facing 80 years in prison at 20 years old. I took plea bargain for 18 months. So I served 13 of that and did the 8 months on parole. And I got out and
you served 13
months
in prison.
Yep. Solitary confinement for about a quarter of that. So 4 months of being locked in a cell for 23 hours a day.
What was that like?
You really get to know yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're so isolated that it would drive most people crazy, mad.
Absolutely.
Even as somebody who I consider myself strong, and even at that time still very mentally strong, you get to a point where you start talking to yourself, you start singing, beatboxing, like things that just to hear somebody else speak, just to get that communication. As humans, we're a social creature. And when you take that away from someone, like, it really impacts their mindset and their mentality. So that was definitely hard.
Yeah, I feel like, you hear about people who spend, you see those prison shows and stuff, and there's the person who spent 7 years in solitary confinement, and they're absolutely insane, like they've totally lost their minds. They're schizophrenic. They're, extremely, sometimes suicidal, and just very, ungrateful, or really does kind of actually depend on the person and how they perceive it. But for the most part, yeah, I always noticed that those people that were in solitary confinement were pretty mentally damaged.
Oh yeah. I believe at one point, I don't know if it passed or what, but I know there was a law where they were actually trying to ban solitary confinement because it was considered like cruel and unusual punishment.
Totally. Yeah, I feel like alone time can be good for small amounts, but when you're forced to be alone for a long period of time, like, that's insanity,
right?
Yeah,
not by choice.
Right.
That's
like I've thrived being alone for short amounts of time,
absolutely.
and like I oftentimes have to just disconnect, and kind of being more of an introvert, just disconnect and like go be alone for a few days and stuff, and like it's great time to reflect and to process things and recharge and set goals and stuff, and get creative, tap into my inner wisdom and stuff. But yeah, I couldn't imagine spending a lot of time in solitary confinement.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really makes you realize the things that you value, what you had, even small things,
Right.
like how excited you are to be able to get out just to use like an electric toothbrush, or to have floss. Like little things like that you're deprived of, that most people every day would use everyday items like that and not even think once about how grateful they are to have it,
Yeah.
and it's like, um, definitely gives you a newfound appreciation for the lives that we do have, here as American civilians.
Totally. Yeah. I feel like, the times when you don't have anything or you don't have much, are really important parts of one's life experience, because you're able to, exactly like you were saying, have that reappreciation for that renewed gratitude for everything, simple things, like for me, going to treatment centers and stuff, or like one time I did have to go to the psych ward, um, for metapsychosis, and they took away everything. They take your phone, they take your anything that could be used as a weapon. They take your shoelaces, they take your drawstrings out of your hoodies, they take everything away from you. And like your room is like this padded room.
Been in one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like just spending, I think I spent like 2 days in there, nothing crazy at all. And as far as jail time too, I've only spent 2 days in jail too, my entire life. And yeah, just that 2 days is like major shift in perspective. And yeah, you just become so much more appreciative for the day to day,
Yep.
And it's like this eternal appreciation. Like it's like once you realize it, then you're like forever grateful in a different way.
1,000%. Absolutely. Like just having gone through the sheer amount of like negative life events that I have, such as that, every single day that I wake up in the morning, before I have even opened my eyes, my brain is just turning on. You're just starting to become conscious, and immediately I start thinking about how grateful I am to be alive, to be in my body, to have my life, to be in my bed, to call this home. And it's because of those events. And so it's very easy in those times to think about how much it fucking sucks. And you don't want to be there, and you want it to be over, and you don't even know if it's gonna be over, if you're gonna make it through, are you gonna live, are you gonna kill yourself, like you don't know. And so having perpetual eternal gratitude every day, like that will transform your life, and it's all because of those negative events. So I encourage anyone who is currently going through something dark or traumatic or less than desirable to try to find solace in that moment, knowing that it will get better and it'll be so beautiful when you make it through. And I know that it's easy to want to give up, but if you just keep pushing, everything you've ever desired, everything you've ever wanted, it lays on the other side of that obstacle and that difficulty.
Seriously. Yeah, that could not be more true. And thank you for sharing that and getting vulnerable. And yeah, like there were so many times in my life where it was so painful. Like it just felt like it was just like, why am I going through this right now? Why is this happening to me? Why is this so hard? And it's just time after time after time. And like, it brings to mind like people, like different guys that I'm sponsoring in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and different friends that I have that are in their mid 20s, like, 23, 24, 25. And they're fucking going through it, dude. And like, I just remember when I was that age and like I was just going through it so bad, dude. And like I would just look at people that were older than me and I was just like, you guys just don't fucking understand. Like you don't know what this is like. And like I would almost get really resentful because it seemed like everyone that was older than me wasn't really holding space for me and wasn't really like validating my struggles. And now I realize that I actually wasn't allowing anybody to hold space or validate my struggles. I was so caught up in this poor me victim kind of, you don't understand what the fuck I'm struggling with. Like, you don't understand what it's like being addicted to meth. You don't understand what it's like, you know, feeling like um, you're not worthy of life. You don't know what it's like feeling like so anxious and fearful that you just can't take that next step in life. And like, really, everyone that was older than me, my elders, they did understand, like maybe not understanding like a meth or heroin addiction, but like they did understand the trials and tribulations of life, and they did understand like the pain and discomfort of life. And they were just kind of waiting for me to have these realizations myself, right? Because it's almost like, and I see this with guys that I'm sponsoring and guys that are younger than me that are really going through it, and I'm like, you know, I just have to, like we say in recovery and in treatment centers, when you know there's people that just want to go back out and just kill themselves on fentanyl and stuff, like at some point, like they're so divisive and they're so set in their ways that they're going to go out and they're going to do what they're going to do, and you have to just let them have their own experience, you know. And yeah, it's just, you know, for anyone who's, like Andrew said, who's going through it right now, just try to find some sort of silver lining, some sort of hope in your heart that maybe this is going to be the same for you as it was for us. Like this pain is going to lead to something fucking beautiful that you can't even describe.
Right. It's always more beautiful than you ever hoped it could be, truly.
Yeah. God always, yeah, like I will always say that God's plans for you are so much greater than anything that you could possibly, I'm getting the chills saying this, you know, anything greater than anything you could possibly imagine. So don't even try to imagine it, you know, just trust, just trust and stay grateful and stay positive and stay hopeful and surround yourself with other good people that also have that same perspective and that same mindset, and you guys will elevate together, you know. But you've got to find like-minded people that share that same hunger and desire for a better way of a better life.
Absolutely. So I remember I read so many books in jail and prison, like 60 plus probably over that year. And one of them I read by Tony Robbins, and he talks about the top 7 qualities of highly successful people. They all have these 7 traits. And the key takeaway I took from those 7, the one that stood out to me the most, was that they can all take a negative situation and they can spin it in a positive light. They can find the beauty amidst the chaos, amidst the darkness. They still see the light. And I have really realized that, you know, applying that to your life, I understand, you know, that can be hard to do. But as you go through life and you get through a terrible event, oh man, that sucked, you know, but we're through it, and you hope that you never have to deal with it again. But the likelihood is you got a whole mile of events, you know, maybe just as hard, or you know, they don't even have to be that hard, but either way, like, still tough to get through, right? And as you get through one, you know that you've done it before,
Right.
you can do it again. So the next time you find yourself in a less than desirable situation or a terrible experience, you're just a little bit stronger because you know I can do it again.
Right.
And as you progress through life, it gets easier and easier and easier to just relax and surrender to what's happening, and you'll exactly get through it again.
Right. Yeah, you build up like a tolerance to the pain and adversity,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it really is like the more that you go through, the more strength that you accumulate,
Mm-hmm.
It's like no pain, no gain. It's true. It's that simple. You can't really level up until you've leveled down.
Yeah.
Like
So,
until you've fallen down and face planted many times, And like for me it took a long time, and it was like each time would kind of get worse and worse, and actually, you know, it was like I was closer and closer to death. Especially in regards to my addiction. It was like I don't have another overdose in me. I don't have another, like, it was like the last one was like the paramedics showed up and they were like, dude, you weren't breathing for 4 minutes. Like, if this was any longer and like this guy wasn't here who called us, you'd be dead. And like it's just like it took me all the way up until not breathing to like learn, okay, like I am so grateful for life. I'm so grateful for whatever I have to go through in this life, as long as I get to live this experience, because so much about life is beautiful. And if you're really getting honest with yourself, that's true, but we tend to focus on, especially in the harder moments, you just laser focus on how painful and difficult and uncomfortable it is. And yeah, if you're listening, like really try to just focus on, count your blessings in every moment and just focus on whatever is going right in your life and whatever you are appreciative of. And that focus on that, that area is gonna help you change your reality,
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And to kind of go back a second, you were saying that, like, unless you've eaten your fair share of shit, or you've been to hell, right? So there's a saying that someone told me a couple months ago, and it's probably by far my favorite saying I've heard now. And the quote, and I may not be saying it verbatim, but it is something to the extent of, um, your tree's leaves can only reach the heights of heaven, if so too have the roots reached the depths of hell.
Yeah.
And as somebody who has been to hell numerous times, I can speak on that, because I know that it's because of those experiences that have allowed me to build this beautiful life that I have for myself. But I think it's important to clarify that just because you get through these experiences and you've gotten stronger because of them, a lot of people become jaded through that process. They become hardened, right? It's good to have tough skin, but you don't have to harden your soul and your heart, right? Because if you do, like, you lose, right? Like, the system is won,
Totally.
essentially. And so that, I think, is the power behind what you and I have accomplished in our lives, is that we have seen the depths of hell on this planet, and despite that, we still continue to radiate love and radiate light, and still be that beacon of hope and inspiration for others. So
That's us, my brother. Yeah. How have we done that? How have we been able to see the darkest of the dark, but still see the light in everything? Do you feel like there's something maybe that you were, some idea you were born with, or something you experienced in your childhood, or how you were raised? Was there anything that helped give you that foundation of hope and understanding of light and love, or did it come from solely from seeing the dark?
It's a great question. One I haven't really had to, think about or consider. But um, personally speaking, I know that as a kid, young kid, um, I never gave up on anything I did. I always like found a way to figure it out or get over it, or I never gave up. And I don't know why, if that was instilled in me as a kid wanting to impress my father, or um, to, I don't know, impress others. Like I never wanted to give up. And I've been like that my whole life. And on that same note too, like I feel like I was probably 8 years old, and since that age, maybe even younger, there's been a feeling inside of me, something like deep and visceral within my chest and every ounce and fiber of my body. And the knowing, I guess, and not just like knowing, but the knowing that I'm on this planet to make a big impact. And my life has only continued to unfold in that way. I've had 5 near death experiences, and some of them being absolutely major. The motorcycle accident where I hit a semi merging onto the interstate on my motorcycle, and my helmet saved my life.
Mm.
And an experience like that makes you realize, like, if I was meant to be dead, I would be dead.
Totally.
Most people don't survive something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, therefore, that means that I'm here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a second near death experience. And again, you walk away completely unscathed. Or, you find yourself in various legal issues or whatever. And, could have gone to prison again for 30 years for selling drugs. And instead, like, charges got dropped when they had all the proof. I sold to an undercover cop. I fucked up, and they could have easily put me away for 30 years. But the judge saw my light and saw the impact that I'm making on my community, and she dropped it all.
Right.
And so it's like, I don't know, maybe I was just born to be this person. And as I continue to elevate my life and my career and tap into my abundance and my resources and my network, I'm only continuing to make a greater and greater impact. And I'm excited to see, what's going on in 2 years, 5 years,
Right.
if this is where we're at now and we're just at the beginning of our success. I just can't even imagine where we're going to end up.
Totally. Yeah, I can relate big time. Like, I've always had this inner knowing that I am going to make a big impact on this earth, but I didn't, like, I thought that, like, I would always have these visions. It's interesting. Like, I would always have these visions of me like speaking on stage in front of tons of people, just like hyping everybody up about life, just like getting everyone super pumped up and excited about crushing it in life. And like, I was so confused as to where that was coming from, because for a while I didn't really even imagine a future. You know what I mean? Like, I never really thought, especially when I started using hard drugs, like I just stopped visualizing anything. Like, I stopped caring about a future, or even really being able to, my consciousness couldn't even really comprehend like adulthood and like a future and stuff like that. um but yeah, like, for whatever reason, I always just knew that I was a little bit different, and like, I am very in touch with people and emotions, and like, I have a big heart, and I really love people, and I'm passionate about like connecting with people and stuff, and like, I don't know, I just always felt so different. And I guess because I felt so different, I was like, I'm going to do something big.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I struggle this much in my mind of feeling so alone, like in a room full of people,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like I'm alone. You know what I mean? Just because something in my mind tells me that I'm not as like, it's weird. It's like this duality. It's like I know that I'm that I'm a child of God. I'm spiritual, and I understand my full potential. But then at the same time, there's like the exact opposite of that, which is like I'm totally different. People are judging me. They're making fun of me. They're not seeing my value. It's like this. It's interesting. It's like when somebody has a gift, and we all have gifts,
Mm-hmm.
and so if you're listening to this, and what I'm trying to say is like we all have gifts, but we don't see our gifts, you know
Mm-hmm.
and that's been something that I've struggled with and still struggle with every day if I don't constantly remind myself of my worth and
Mm-hmm.
where my worth comes from, and that my value comes from God and from the universe and from this inner knowing of who I am and what I'm capable of, and that's it. And like that way I'm not susceptible to letting other not as susceptible to letting outside, you know, situations or influences affect the way that I affect my self-worth.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I feel as if what you're describing is what everybody faces and struggles, and that's that you're torn between the physical body and higher self,
Hmm.
right? Because your heart, your soul, and when I say heart, I'm not saying physically your heart, but your heart space, your container for love, and your soul will always know what is best for you, right? Because it's coming from above, it's coming from something greater than us, it's connected to our creator, our loving creator that created all of this for us.
Hmm.
And so therefore, like, that voice from our higher self that is telling us these things, that's true. But because we have to live this physical embodiment and experience, we are subjected to low vibrational, um,
Ego.
yeah, exactly. And that's due to other people's projections onto us, or um, maybe childhood trauma that caused us to view ourselves a certain way before we ever had the chance to step into our higher self and understand that about ourselves. And so I feel that through time, as we go along this journey and we continue to discover ourselves and step into our power more and more, that's when we start shifting from this lower vibrational self of ego into our higher self.
Hmm. Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, it's the human condition, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we're struggling with, and you say others projecting their childhood traumas, their their own emotions that they're dealing with as a result of the human condition. We're all living this in this mind, right? That's so profound and it's so powerful, and therefore it tells us, you know, we have great things that it tells us, and we also have terrible things that it tells us, and just based on whatever your life experiences have looked like, what you've been through, what your upbringing was like, what your childhood was like going to school and dealing with different types of social environments, and all of your different experiences added up pretty much all play into how you show up as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're somebody who's very hurt and very broken from your past, then, and I'm speaking from experience because this was me.
Mm-hmm.
I was very judgmental. I was very, you know, manipulative, and I talk behind your back, and I, you know, assassinate your character with my words and stuff. And the only reason I was doing that was because it was done to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was feeling this low self-worth. And we all know that a lot of times, especially when you're in that ego consciousness, that making fun of people, putting other people down makes you feel better,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And um yeah, so it's really important that we remember that what our heart tells us and what we really feel deep down is all that matters in every other situation that you have on a regular day-to-day basis. Those are just experiences, and those are feelings, and those are, you know, a culmination of the whole collective of human condition coming at you. And a lot, like, none of it's personal,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And when we start to take things personally, like the four agreements is coming to mind, like
Mm-hmm.
taking things personally, making assumptions, not being impeccable with our word, like all these different things, they can really beat a person down,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And actually what's coming into mind is what we were talking about before we clicked record, which was when you were talking about that person that you heard from another person that,
You want to share the story?
yeah, I would like you to share the story.
Yeah, you can absolutely do that.
Yeah, go
Did I cut you off?
No, not at all.
So just to give a little bit of background,
Yeah.
We were at a music festival for Halloween last weekend, and I made some friends, and these friends met the rest of my friend group, and a guy from our friend group that I had never met before connected with one of the women, one of the two women, and then the two women were friends, and I connected with the other. So me and said gentleman were hanging out with these two women, and we hung out the whole night and everything, and we each took one of the women home, and we all like left the festival together and everything. And I didn't really like talk to this other guy too much. We were at a festival listening to music, having fun and stuff. So um, I certainly didn't get to know him, and he certainly didn't get to know me. And we dropped them off and then went about our way. And last night I was talking to the woman that I had gone home with, and we had a strong connection, and I had a strong connection with her friend too that the other guy took home. And they really saw my light, they saw my value, and they really knew, like, and I'm not saying this in like a braggadocious way, but like they knew that I was a great person.
Totally.
And
nothing wrong with that.
And so last night, when I'm FaceTiming this woman, she told me that after we dropped those two off, he said, wow, like she's going home with that guy. And in that moment, when she told me that, like I could feel feelings coming up, into my chest, and just kind of like trying to sit there and figure out, how that made me feel and what were those emotions coming up. Because him saying that, like, I know my value, like he doesn't take away from it by him saying that, but I guess it rubbed me the wrong way because this guy had absolutely nothing to base that off of. So it was entirely ego. He was clearly like intimidated, and that was his way of expressing that by him projecting his ego and his insecurities onto me to make himself look better and to prop himself up.
Yeah.
And the sad fact is, it actually made him look stupid.
Totally.
Because the girl that he took home that he said that to stood up for me, and she was like, no, actually, like, he's fucking great, like, he's an awesome person. So it really just goes to show that um, when people are unaligned within themselves, they try to bring others down with them to prop themselves up.
Totally.
And I just found that all like so fascinating. And this morning during meditation, I sat with it and I really processed it and worked through it. And part of doing so required me to sit with that heavy feeling. And that, as an Aries, like, we're known for being quick tempered. And over the years, I've worked so hard that it really doesn't apply to me anymore. But when I'm disrespected, that fire starts burning. And so sitting in the discomfort of that internal fire, instantly it brought out my ego. My ego came out, and it was, bro, like, I've accomplished way more in my life than this guy ever has. I've served for my country. I've built multiple multi-million-dollar businesses in the last year alone. I have accomplished so much, and majority of people that I meet, like, love me because I lead with love and light and respect to all people. And so I'm just thinking of all these like different bullet points that I could like throw at this guy. And as soon as I work through it, process it, and think through all of these, then that's when I have that like, but none of that matters. These thoughts, these feelings of my own ego don't serve me. I'm never going to go and tell this guy this stuff, because I have a high emotional intelligence.
Right.
But, this guy never gave me an opportunity. He never, tried to get to know me or see my light. And as someone who I believe my mission is to spread my light, I guess I always feel rubbed the wrong way when somebody doesn't. But not everyone's going to like you, right? For their own reasons. It has way more to do with him and others projecting than it ever does you as the receiver.
Absolutely. That's why it's so important not to take anything personally. And once you can develop that muscle of being able to not take anything personally, no matter how things play out, you're fucking unstoppable. Because if you dissect the situation, it's like, okay, that dude was feeling some sort of discomfort, maybe around the way that he was connecting with this chick. Maybe he's nervous about how he's about to go home with her and she's gonna find out he's a fucking scrub in bed. No, I'm just kidding. But like, they're just like, he's, nervous or something, and he's like, oh, well, maybe I can, connect with her more if I like make fun of this dude, and we'll like laugh about it and stuff, and like it'll be this cute little moment. And really, it probably, I mean, because any woman who loves herself and had like, they say, you can only love someone as much as you love yourself. And it's like, so clearly that girl loved herself enough to be able to love you as well and be like, no, dude, that dude's fucking awesome. Like, you should get to know that dude and hear how awesome he is and not just judge him based on whatever the fuck you're judging him about, know, which who knows what it was. But I can relate big time to that so many people in my life have judged me based on my appearance, what I look like, how I dress, how I, whatever, like, up until this point in my life, like, I've never really been financially successful, I guess, because I was always just struggling with addiction and I never made it past 6 months not on drugs and was never able to accumulate much. And like, I know that people judge me just based on like the fact that they're like, oh, I can tell this dude doesn't have any money because he doesn't have like super nice clothes or, super nice possessions and all this different stuff. And like, it's just crazy how some people immediately write someone off based on their appearance but if they would sit down with you and, you know, have a deep conversation with you or something, then you would be approved in their mind based on just them feeling your energy and feeling your whole vibe and your life experiences and everything that you do know and stuff. But yeah, it's like, you know, we both have kind of an edgier look with tattoos and, you know, different hairstyles and fashion. And like a lot of times I feel like people just, they like get uncomfortable by you like trying to stand out and like be different, that they feel like they need to like put you down for that to like make themselves feel better, when really like they wish that they had better fashion or they had an edgier look or they had the confidence to like, you know, do whatever. Kind of like we do, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
I'll wear anything. I'll fucking, you know, want me to wear fishnets, I'll wear some fishnets, like straight up, you
Right.
know, like yeah.
And like to your point, I mean, it all stems from the fact that like we intimidate people.
Right.
And it's not that we intimidate people because we look scary.
Yeah,
You know, we intimidate people because we're confident men, because we can wear whatever we want.
Yeah.
We can stand out as much as we do.
Right.
And it doesn't affect us. It doesn't bother us.
Exactly.
Because we're confident in who we are.
Yeah.
And we're secure in our masculinity and our person. And
Totally.
that alone is unnerving to those, because like you said, you can only meet others as deeply as you've met yourself. And as people who have met ourselves deeply, to those who haven't, like that makes them like nervous.
Totally.
Because they're like, wow, how is this person like so confident? How is this person like also just so happy? Like most people don't have a positive mindset, you know, like they're stuck on how much their life sucks or how much they have to go to a job that they don't like going to or whatever. So why is this person like always happy, you know? And I think it makes people jealous or like whatever. Like there's a whole slew of negative feelings that can be associated with the way that not only we present ourselves, but how we act and who we, you know, genuinely are.
Right. Yeah. Something that I noticed with you right off the bat is like the first time I met you, like I've told you this many times before, you know, I just like looked at you and I saw your light and I felt your light. And I was like, oh, one, this dude's like been through some shit. And like I can tell just by the way that he carries himself in his life. And like also I was just like, this is a very like artsy, dynamic, like, you know, just well versed person, you know? And like I feel like when somebody is very like well rounded, people are intimidated by that, you know?
Because it makes them reflect on
Oh,
all
why
the
don't
pieces
why haven't I explored myself like that?
broken,
You know?
within them.
Right.
Yeah, it brings up a lot of things within them.
Yeah.
And instead of them like realizing that about themselves and looking within, they go outward by trying to them. You're projecting outward in instead of, or inward outward as opposed to like outward in.
Totally. Yeah, what's coming up for me right now is like in this period of just exploring myself and like trying all kinds of different fashion and hairstyles and, you know, different things that make me feel more in touch with who I am, who make me feel like, because for a while I've always kind of felt these things and kind of felt this desire to be more in touch with my feminine and have more of like a feminine look, but not able to like embody it out of fear and stuff, you know? And like now I'm really pushing myself to like try all kinds of different things. And like, you know, some of it has been just being in recovery and coming off of drugs and kind of like getting addicted to other things and stuff. So like I went through this period of time where I was just dyeing my hair constantly. I dyed it black first, then I dyed it, then I bleached it, then I buzzed it completely like bald, buzzed or bleached that, then dyed it pink, dyed it purple, all these different things.
Mm-hmm.
And like at the same time wearing all different kinds of jewelry and, all sorts of things. And that has been like a really amazing chapter in my life. And it's helped me like really be like, all right, who are my real friends? Who are my true people? Like who's gonna still fuck with me, like regardless of how I look and how I'm expressing myself, and yeah. So if you're listening, like if you're struggling with finding yourself and figuring out who you are, just buzz all your hair off and see who talks to you.
Maybe not to that
No,
extent, but trying new things, discovering yourself is exactly that. It's just
not being afraid to try new things. Like if you have this inner voice that's telling you to change your appearance or get a tattoo or pierce your body or whatever, like just do it and give it a try and see how you like, because yeah, I really feel like a lot of times people look at people that have tattoos and piercings and all sorts of body modifications and they're like, oh, that person's fucking lost. But it's like, no, that person's not lost at all. Right. That person is found. Like that person, yeah, they've got it figured out,
One of my favorite rappers, taken so much through his music, and another vessel, another light worker, Big Sean. Shout out Big Sean. He has a line in one of his songs and he says, "These aren't tattoos, these are scars." Because, yeah, it's a great play on words because they are physical scars, but all of my tattoos personally, like, are a symbol of the things that I've been through, and they all stand and mean something.
Exactly.
Right. So absolutely. And I really loved how you were talking about stepping into your feminine without, like, I guess, becoming overly feminine without fully embodying that.
Right.
And I think that's really important and something I encourage all of the world to start to understand, that you have masculine and you have feminine energy. And although we can be biologically one or the other, that doesn't mean that you can't still step into the energy of the other sex, right? And so anybody who can see the video, for those just listening, I have a man bun. It's shaved and I've got a fade on the sides, but I have really long hair.
Right.
And nobody knows until I take it out. And I always feel that when I let my hair down, I let this long, wavy hair down, that I'm stepping more into my feminine. And although I'm still a masculine person, I just know that stepping into your feminine comes with its own characteristics and its own traits, right? You're more understanding, you're more empathetic, you're more caring, right? And you need to learn to kind of sway between the two, to be balanced. Absolutely. Between the two, and knowing that this situation that we're in calls for me to be masculine. We're in a situation where we could be in danger, right? I'm on a date with a woman and, I see some thugs up ahead. That's a moment where you want to step into your masculine, right? Yep. Because you want to protect you and your friends or your date or whatever. Right. But then, say you're in a situation and that same woman, you finished your date and she just found out her dog died, right? And now it's like being stuck in your masculine of like, I don't know what to say. Like, well, that sucks. Yeah, like I wish I, had something to tell you. Like, that's not the time for that. Instead, tapping into, your feminine in that moment and being understanding and reassuring and giving them love and support is like the time for that. Yeah. And so when you can find that balance between the two, that perfect balance, and knowing when and where to step in, that's a true alpha male. Totally. And that is high emotional intelligence, and that is where society as a whole needs to go.
Fire, dude. Absolutely. Yeah. Like for me, I always felt this like feminine energy in me, but I didn't comprehend it. I didn't know what it was. Like, I always felt this desire to just be more in touch with myself, take better care of myself, like emotionally, physically. Like, I've always been like one to kind of pamper myself, you know, and I think you are that way as well. And like a lot of other men that I know are like that as well. And then there's some that aren't like that at all. You know, there's some that are honestly just kind of gross in the way that they like live, in the way that their hygiene, and just like the way that and like you can tell that they're deep down, they're too scared they're afraid of judgment, they're afraid of feeling too girly to like do a face mask or to dye their hair or to get some piercings or to, you know, yeah. And like it was my it was I think it was in my drug addiction that I really started to explore my feminine side, because I really started feeling this feminine energy when I was doing meth, and it made me very, yeah, very feminine. And that's when I started like painting my nails, and I started, you know, doing all kinds of other stuff. We won't talk about that on air, but
Right.
yeah, just all sorts of other exploration in that realm. And now, like, being off drugs and stuff, I'm able to kind of find the happy medium in a healthy way of like, okay, I can have this kind of androgynous fashion, this like, you know, somewhat edgy-ish, like, you know, feminine appearance, but also still be very masculine and be very, you know, muscular and strong and dominant and um just able to provide and to, yeah, like I'm a very masculine man, you know, but I'm also very feminine, and finding those two and being okay and really honoring the feminine stuff. And even like dance and yoga and, you know, just moving your body in a more like flowy way, and intimacy and stuff like that, like that has, you know, finding my feminine has played a huge role in all of that, and just becoming more of myself, you know, and a balanced version of myself. There's lots of like girls that I've been with, and they've been like, yeah, like it's really cool that you are in touch with that part of yourself, because there's a lot of guys that aren't, and they won't be because they're too scared, you know, they're too, they resist it, they block it off, you know. And we all feel it, we all have this like, you know, innate kind of, yeah, you feel both, you know. And especially as you start to get more aware of spirituality and just the duality of everything, like good and bad, light and dark, masculine, feminine, left, right, up, down, you know. Like,
Right.
it's like, yeah, you start to understand those things a little bit better.
100%.
Do you feel like your spiritual awareness has played a big role in understanding the masculine feminine balance?
Absolutely. Yeah. Knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
And I think going down that road of self discovery and spiritual awakening, um, you know, brings the necessary information and knowledge and content into your life to start to um, blossom those realizations. And as you continue to go down that road and you become aware of, you know, this thing over here, well, now through that awareness, it opens up the awareness for something else. And it's just, it's like those Russian stacking dolls, right? Like the more you keep going, they just keep happening and happening, right? And so I would absolutely say so. But you have to do that work. You know, you can't just expect to figure it out all on your own too. Like there are people who have figured this stuff out well before we ever have. So use your resources, trusted resources, and do your homework and your research. And through that and experience, you'll end up exactly where you're meant to be and exactly who you're meant to be.
Right. Yeah. How have you found spirituality? What was your journey of becoming spiritual? Where did it start?
Yeah, that's a great question. So growing up as a kid, I didn't go to church. So I never had a religious upbringing. I didn't really have a whole lot of exposure to it until I was maybe like 14 or 15. And my mom decided that she wanted to start having a relationship with Christianity. And living under her house meant, I was forced to go to church with her. And whenever I would go, I just felt so awkward, so out of place. It was so weird to me that you have all of these people like singing their songs and putting their hands up and convulsing, because they believe so much in this religion and that there's this God and all this stuff, and just didn't resonate with me. Didn't seem right. It just something seemed wrong, like morally, and so finally graduated high school. That's when I went into the military, and that's when I got introduced to psychedelics. And starting to have psychedelic experiences, your first one, it just strips away the reality that you thought you knew. And through like that stripping and the lifting of the veil, as the Native Americans call it, makes you realize that there's way more at play than what meets the eye. And once you realize, well, if there's more to this than what we see, then there has to be something like even greater than all of that, right? And I think then that's what started to just at least open my awareness that something else is going on around us. And then having that motorcycle accident at 20, actually I was 19, but and realizing like I'm here for a reason. And a month later after that accident, I'd have surgery, and they put a metal bar into my clavicle, like an 8-inch bar. And I was just so, for lack of a better phrase, fucked up. I was in my own dorm. Nobody came to check on me. I had to, I'm bandaged up. I can only use one arm to try and put socks on. And how do you dress with one hand?
Yeah.
Dude, it's so hard.
Right.
And so you're alone. You're isolated. Again, isolated. I'm in a different state. I'm not around my family. I don't have any friends. Nobody's coming to check on me. So I'm physically broken. Mentally, I'm messed up because shortly before my accident, I found out that my fiance had fucked my best friend. So emotionally, I'm like messed up. I lost a friend and a partner. So I'm physically, emotionally messed up. And that's also too when I was under investigation for selling the drugs in the military. So now I'm looking at being kicked out of the military and going to prison. So when it comes to hitting rock bottom, I'd say that's it.
Triple whammy right there.
Right. And so I decided, although that semi didn't get me, I think I can finish the job. And so I crushed up a bunch of pain pills, Vicodin, Percocet,
Seroquel.
No, I didn't have any Seroquel. I did have some muscle relaxers.
There you go.
Ambien or something. Something. But either way, I ate some, crushed them up, snorted some. And I remember kneeling before my bed, praying to a God that I didn't know existed. I didn't have a relationship with. And I just remember praying like, if there is a God, like, please forgive me. And please like give my family like the love and support that they'll need. And I hope that one day they can forgive me too. And I just walked out of my my barrack, and there was a park nearby, and I walked to the park, and I sat down and I watched the sunset, and thinking like this will be the last sunset I'll ever see.
Yeah.
And um, I just slowly started to fade, and the next thing I know, must have been like 4 or 5 hours later, I remember just like waking up, and it was like pitch black, and um, I just had that realization, like I'm I'm meant to be here. If I was gonna die, like
that would have
the
been
semi would have done it, that would have done it, like, and so from that moment on, I was like, all right, I got to figure out a way to like get through this,
right.
and make
Just casually woke up.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Literally, I just remember I was like slumped on my side, and I like sit up. I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, that was my exact thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
but you have that internal realization of like, holy shit, like I was saved,
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's just so many different experiences I've had like that started adding up. And then not long after, maybe a few months later, I smoked some DMT.
Hey.
So for those who don't know what DMT is, it is short for dimethyltryptamine, and it is an extremely powerful psychedelic that kind of taps you out of this reality and taps you into that unity with God and with your spirit guides and things that are far greater than this physical reality that we can perceive. And that's where a lot of people get insights into themselves, into life, reality. You get told a lot of things. And although it is an illegal controlled substance federally, and it is illegal to have, it has a lot of potential to help people and give them the insight into their life that they need. It's what's commonly put into ayahuasca to help give you an even more profound experience. And so having smoked that, I came out of it, came back, like just knowing like there's something going on here,
Yeah.
and there is like a creator, like there is a God. Like I don't know who or what that God belongs to, if it is religion or it's not or whatever, but there is a creator.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more at play. And so having that little seed planted did wonders for me. But it wasn't until, and that was at 19, and it wasn't until I was 26, 7 years later, that I had
7 years later.
Yeah. SpongeBob me, right? That I had my true awakening.
Yeah.
So for 7 years, even after that, I still was just stuck so much. And like, why is this happening to me? Like, why are all these negative things happening? Why am I living like this experience when I know I'm supposed to be somebody great? I know I'm going to be successful. Why isn't it coming to me? Why isn't it happening?
Yeah.
And then back in 2020, when I think a lot of people had awakenings for their own reasons, I just left a relationship of 3 years. She decided that she wanted to explore her sexuality with women. She believed that she was lesbian. And that impact on me was so great, so deep, that it literally like broke me. And it broke me to the point that this shell, my ego, everything that I thought that I was or who I was, split, and my soul became free. And through that is when I started like tapping into my spiritual powers, my ability as an empath, my ability to read energy, to read people. Like, and I'm not saying you can look at somebody and you can tell, oh, based on the way you dress or your tattoos, that you live this kind of lifestyle. I'm talking about the type of energy where we can be talking and I'll tell you what you had for breakfast, and there's no way I know what you had for breakfast, but I just do.
Unless you were spying on me.
Yeah, I've got cameras in your house.
telepathic communication. I know exactly what you mean.
Right. And that's all these dormant abilities and skills and power that I had within me was finally like unleashed. And that's when I started reading and listening to podcasts like Aubrey Marcus. Aubrey did a lot for me just through his podcasts and through his experiences and his guests. Really just provided so much value to me and insight into me, and just all the various influencers, Aaron Dowdy, because of their light and because of their mission on this planet, it helped me find my power and step into all of that. And then you become obsessed with becoming the best version of yourself, putting your best foot forward every day so that you can serve your people. And that desire to be the best version of myself meant devoting all of my time and all of my energy and attention into awakening my awareness, tapping into my intuition and all of these spiritual things. I just set down that road and I haven't ever looked back.
Dude, thank you so much for sharing all that. And I just want to make sure you know that I was yawning only because I literally, like, this drink, it just like spiked my blood sugar and then dropped it. Like, I can feel it.
You
like,
want some coffee?
Kind of do want a sip of coffee. Yeah. You get some. But, so like going back to what you're talking about, we have very similar paths. And for me, it was like going to church and stuff as a young buck and, kind of liking it a little bit, but also like, what the fuck is this? And just like something just didn't feel right, And then I tried LSD when I was 14 years old, and that realm of psychedelics just shattered my whole reality. My whole understanding of what I thought reality was now just like fucking crumpled up in a ball and spit at my face. And I was just like, yeah, spitball right to the fucking dome. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, what? Just like, I don't know a fucking thing. Yeah. Like, this is just so confusing and so crazy, weird and profound and whatever, And then, yeah, I pretty much set off on like a spiritual journey after psychedelics. And that's seems to be the case for most people or for a lot of people. And, and then I, started messing with other drugs and stuff, struggled with addiction. And then in one of the 8 treatment centers I went to, I met my first like real love of my life. And her and I dated for 3 years. And then when we broke up, I was totally fucking shattered beyond belief. Like, it felt like a death times 100. Like, I was just like, why couldn't you have just tragically died? Like, right. That would have been a lot better than you, like, still being here and being, like, in Dallas with some other guy. You know what I mean? Because that's exactly what happened.
So crying every day when you wake up, bro. Crying when you go to sleep.
Choking on tears. Yeah. Thinking I'm going to die because I'm crying so fucking hard.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, so it's literally, like, it's a combination of spiritual exposure and, like, actually seeing into the spiritual realm through psychedelics, or breathwork and meditation is a great way to get there for people who don't want to do psychedelics. Yeah. Church works for some people. For me, church wasn't enough because I couldn't physically grasp at God. But when I took mushrooms and I took DMT and I did a San Pedro ceremony, it was like, this was the physical reality of what, like, I can take this medicine, and then I like the veil is lifted and I can see the spiritual realm. I can feel it. I can feel God consciousness. I can feel the energy. And like that was it for me. So that put all the pieces together. Pain, spiritual exposure, Christian background, like all of that kind of put everything together. And then I started diving into my spiritual gifts as well. I started realizing that I could change my reality through the way I think. I can express gratitude and have this connection with this God consciousness, and it provides me with all the dopamine and feel goods that I could possibly imagine just by having this, you know, this conduit to God's love, just by having this channel open to the understanding that there is something greater than me. And yeah, then yeah, it's like a domino effect, you know. It just gets like, I remember my first plant medicine ceremony, and the guy who brought me there, he was like, dude, just get ready for your whole life to fucking just change drastically. And sure enough, he was so fucking right. Like everything changed. I started meeting new people. Me and my ex broke up. I started, my coaching business on Instagram. I started hanging out with all different types of people that were into movement, into spirituality, and into breath and consciousness. And, it was just like, just door after door after door after door opening, and then connecting with all sorts of people that had the same or similar realizations with life as well, and then you start tapping into the, like, we are in this same consciousness, and you and I are having this conversation, and we're connected in a higher consciousness, and that's how we're flowing so well together, because we're on the same wavelength. That's why with this podcast, it's like, I really only, like, I do want to have anybody and everyone who wants to be on it, but I do need to align with you in some sort of way in order to have a fluid conversation, you know? And like, yeah, it's wild. The spiritual journey is fucking insane, you know?
Yeah. And, one thing that I always love gifting people is the realization that it's like the power behind pain is tremendous. Because you're right. Like for me, I know that the catalyst for my awakening was that pain.
Totally.
And I know you can relate to that. And to anyone else out there that, feels like you've hit that rock bottom, you don't feel like you can live anymore, like that pain right there is actually so powerful and so useful. Because if you can apply that in the right direction, it's going to just open so many doors for you and put you down a new life path that is only beneficial to you.
Yeah, it's inevitable. It's like, it's just a choice that you make to see the good in the hardships and the pain and the hopelessness. It's like, see it as an opportunity. Every downfall is an opportunity for growth, and it's just a choice. God's up there making things happen in your life to try to get you to wake the fuck up and be like, all right, I trust you. I trust that you're gonna lead me in the right direction if I just let go and stop trying to control everything and stop reacting to everything and stop, because we don't know shit. We don't know why our lives. I firmly don't believe that God was like, hey, I'm gonna make you a drug addict, I believe I found drugs in order to cope with my internal condition. And I get totally twisted up and wrapped up trying to figure it all out. Like, that's how profound our consciousness and our life is we get totally twisted up trying to figure it out. So stop trying to figure it out. Stop trying to figure out why you're going through what you're going through, and just trust that it's all part of the plan, and you don't know anything, and it's going to get better.
Absolutely. You
don't know shit.
No, truly though, and it's like there will be a point in time where you do understand why those things happen.
Exactly.
You'll be able to connect the dots, but while you're going through it, you're not going to figure that out.
Right.
You will take things from it. You will take lessons out of the experience. But as far as understanding like why you're in the position that you're currently in life, like it's going to take time, because even I was talking with a buddy and we were saying how, like, if you look at a rocket ship, when the astronauts strap in, right? Like you're like this, and it might look like you're falling or like you're slipping, or that you're down low, but when that rocket takes off, it fucking takes off. So it can look like in life, it can look as if life is slipping, or that you're falling, or that you're in a bad position in life. But if you knew that bad position in life was occurring so that you could excel tenfold, you would rest a whole lot easier in that moment, knowing like, well, fuck, dude, if this is all I gotta do to get to where I want to be, then like, yo, let's ride. Like, let's enjoy this ride. Like, even though it sucks, like, we're gonna find the good in it.
Right. And then once you find the good in it, your reality then shifts based on the energy that you start inviting into your life by just surrendering and being grateful and expressing gratitude for the little things.
Absolutely. Gratitude for the little things, man.
Gratitude's the attitude.
It truly is. Gratitude is a magnet for abundance. Honestly, like, you want that Ferrari, but are you taking good care of your Honda? Are you taking it for a car wash every week, every other week? Are you getting it detailed? Are you treating it with respect? Are you grateful for it? Because if you're not, why the fuck is our creator going to give you a Ferrari? Right. You don't deserve that. Exactly. And that's true for everything in life. You might not be where you want to be, but if you're still grateful for what you do have and where you're at, the universe is going to keep on supplying, right? But it's got to be grateful. It's got to be genuine. Yeah. You can't just be like, oh, I'm grateful for this, but deep down you're like, yo, what the fuck, man? Like, where that Ferrari at? Oh, like,
it does have to be genuine. It's got to be so genuine. And that's where the pain comes into play. You got to feel that pain. And we all go through pain, and so just lean into it, really. And say that's the moral of the story. And we better wrap up because we are at an hour and 22 minutes, but this has been an amazing conversation, dude.
Hey, I'm so glad. It was just 1 minute, 23 seconds. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3 in new numerology, which is, I guess a part of the grand scheme and in spirituality, that everything is numbers. It's all connected via numbers. And so all angel numbers, to me, really, the premise is just that, like, it's that reminder that you're exactly where you're meant to be. Everything throughout your entire life, from when you were born to this very moment, everything has happened exactly how it was meant to happen. Yeah. And you were exactly who you're meant to be. And it's that, like, wow, I can rest easy because it's like, I'm meant to be here, and all that shit, good or bad, that happened to me, like, that was meant for me. Right. And so it's just that, like, you can rest easy, you know? And also then 1, 2, 3 specifically. Well, what is 1, 2, 3?
1, 2, 3, you and me.
1, 2, 3 is step by step.
Right.
You put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
So I guess that's how we're going to end on this note, is just continue to put one foot in front of the other. And I promise you're going to end up where you want to be, living the life that you want.
Absolutely. Well said, Andrew.
I love you, brother.
I love you too. I appreciate you so much. If you want to just real quick, just kind of let people know if they wanted to reach out to you for some support, somebody to talk to, check out your cloud lights. If you want to just shamelessly plug yourself, Go for it.
Yeah, definitely. So you can find me on Instagram at Andrew Kundalini. That's Kundalini. It's the best platform to reach me at. I'm always happy to connect with others, whether you're in a good position or a bad. If I have any type of wisdom or knowledge that I can provide, I will always do so. That's my mission on this planet. And we do own mycloudlights.com for a really cool LED cloud light experience for your home or office, business, etc. See if we can get a little bit of action. Yeah, there we go. There's a little bit of content there,
dude. Nice.
Yes, sir.
That's it. Those are the cloud lights, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad we did that. That was a really important part of this episode. Is that it?
That's it. That's all I got.
Right on. Well, thanks again for joining another episode of the Be Powerful Podcast. We have many awesome episodes in the works, and we'll see you next week.